You think Microsoft makes its money the way it always did. You walk into a store, or once you did, and you buy a box. Inside the box is a disk. On the disk is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. You pay once, maybe $150, maybe more, and the software is yours. You own it. You can use it for years and never pay Microsoft another cent. That was the deal for decades. That is the Office almost everyone over 30 remembers. And that deal is quietly dead. Microsoft does not really want to sell you a box anymore. It wants to rent you the same software, forever, by the seat, by the month. Here is how it looked from the outside for most of Microsoft's life. Office was the classic packaged software business. Microsoft wrote a version of Office, pressed it onto disks, shipped it to retailers and computer makers, and collected a one-time license fee. You bought Office 2003. A few years later, if you wanted the new features, you bought Office 2007, then 2010, then 2013, each one a fresh purchase, a fresh box, a fresh fee. The obvious story was simple. Microsoft is a software publisher. It makes a product, sells copies, and the more copies it sells, the more it earns. Like a book publisher, but for spreadsheets. And that business was enormous. Office became one of the most profitable products in the history of business. Hundreds of millions of people used Word and Excel at work, at school, at home. For most office workers on Earth, Office was not a choice. It was the floor you stood on. The file your boss sent, the spreadsheet your bank used, the form your government published, all of it arrived in Microsoft's formats, so the assumption wrote itself. Microsoft makes money selling Office the way a car maker makes money selling trucks. Build it once, sell each unit, count the units. But there was a problem buried inside that beautiful business, and Microsoft knew it. When you sell software in a box, you only get paid when someone buys a new box. And here is the catch. Office 2003 was already good enough. For millions of people, Word and Excel had stopped getting meaningfully better years ago. So why upgrade? Why pay again? Huge numbers of customers simply kept using the version they already owned, sometimes for a decade, paying Microsoft nothing the entire time. The one-time sale was a trap. Microsoft had built something people used every single day, and most of those people were paying it nothing on any given day. A product used by the whole world that, on most days, earned nothing from most of its users. So where does the money really come from now? Not from the box, from the subscription. In 2011, Microsoft launched Office 365, and over the following years it pushed hard to convert the whole world from buying Office once to renting Microsoft 365 every month. In 2020, it even renamed the thing, dropping the word Office and calling it Microsoft 365, a service rather than a product, and it worked. By fiscal 2025, the part of Microsoft that contains these products, the segment Microsoft calls Productivity and Business Processes, brought in about $121 billion in revenue, up 13% in a single year. The overwhelming majority of that is now recurring subscription money, not one-time license sales. The box is gone. The meter is running. Look at the scale of what got converted. On the business side, Microsoft reported about 430 million paid Microsoft 365 commercial seats partway through fiscal 2025, growing again from 400 million the year before. Think about what a seat is. It is one employee at one company, generating a payment to Microsoft every single month, for as long as that person has a job there. On the consumer side, by the close of fiscal 2025, Microsoft counted about 89 million Microsoft 365 consumer subscribers, up 8% in a year. That is 89 million households paying, not once, but again and again, on a schedule that never ends. Now run the simple math on what that switch does to a single customer. In the old world, one person buying Office once might hand Microsoft $150 and then nothing for 10 years. Spread across those years, that is barely more than $1 a month. In the new world, a consumer plan runs about $100 a year for personal and $130 for family. Over that same decade, one customer who used to be worth a single box is now worth $1,000 or more, paid in a steady, predictable stream. On the business side, it is starker still. A single seat at, say, $12 or $15 a month is over $150 a year, every year, with no end date. Multiply that by 430 million seats. The lifetime value of one user did not just grow, it changed category. And there is a subtler reason Wall Street loved this switch. Beyond the bigger number, a box sale was lumpy. Microsoft only had revenue the moment someone walked up to a register, and could not say what next year would bring, because that depended on whether people felt like upgrading. A subscription flips that. Once a company signs millions of seats onto annual contracts, most of next year's revenue is effectively booked before the year begins, recurring, contracted, and renewing by default. And a business whose revenue you can forecast is one the market will pay far more for. Microsoft did not just raise how much each customer pays, it turned a guessing game into an annuity. And here is why that matters so much for Microsoft specifically. Software has almost no marginal cost once Word exists. Letting one more person use it costs Microsoft close to nothing. There is no disk to press, no box to ship, no truck to load. So when you turn a one-time license into a monthly subscription, you are not adding much cost. You are mostly adding pure, repeating revenue on top of a product that was already built and paid for years ago. You can see it in the company's overall numbers. In fiscal 2025, Microsoft reported total revenue of about $282 billion, gross margin of about $194 billion, and net income of about $102 billion. That is a gross margin near 70%. The subscription does not just earn more than the box, it earns more reliably at a fraction of the relative cost. So why does this work and why can't a customer just walk away? Because Microsoft 365 is built as a loop you live inside, not a product you own. Start with the file formats. The Word document, the Excel spreadsheet, the PowerPoint deck. These are not just Microsoft's formats. They are the world's formats. When your client, your boss, your bank, your government sends you a document, it arrives as a Word file or an Excel file. To open it and work with it cleanly, the path of least resistance runs through Microsoft. Every other person who uses Office makes it a little harder for you to leave Office. That is a network, and Microsoft sits at the center of it. Then there is the cloud underneath. Microsoft 365 is not just apps anymore. It is OneDrive holding your files, Exchange running your email, Teams running your meetings, and your company's identity and logins wired into the whole thing through Microsoft systems. For a business, switching off Microsoft 365 is not uninstalling a program. It is ripping out the plumbing of how the entire company communicates and stores its work. Tens of thousands of employees, each with an account, a mailbox, a calendar, a chat history, all of it tied together. That is a cost so high that most organizations simply renew year after year. The subscription is sticky not because the apps are magical, but because everything important is now plugged into them. The switching cost is the moat. And the per-seat structure quietly tightens that moat from the inside. Microsoft does not sell a company one license to share. It sells one paid seat per person, billed whether that employee opens Word that month or not. So as a business grows, its Microsoft bill grows automatically, headcount by headcount, with nobody making a fresh decision to buy. The seat count only ratchets one way. And to leave, a company would have to retrain everyone, move every file, and rewire every login, all to save a per-seat fee any single manager finds easy to keep approving. The friction is not an accident. It is the product. And notice how the bundle keeps growing. The subscription is the wrapper, and Microsoft keeps folding more inside it. Email was already there, then chat and video meetings through Teams. Then security tools, device management, more storage. Each thing added makes the whole package harder to leave and easier to justify charging more for. A company that signs up for word processing slowly finds that its email, its calls, its files, and its logins all run through the same monthly bill. That is the difference between selling a product and renting a platform. A product you can replace. A platform you live inside. And the deeper a customer is inside it, the more reliably that customer pays, and the more Microsoft can layer on top without ever risking the original sale. The two halves reinforce each other. Consumers anchor the brand and the habit, and the price increases. There are real money on 89 million households. But the engine is the commercial side. 430 million business seats, each one a recurring payment a company has effectively wired into how it operates, is a base most businesses on earth would find painful to unplug. That is why Microsoft can raise prices, add tiers, and bolt on artificial intelligence with relative confidence. The customer already agreed to pay. The only question left is how much. And the subscription lets Microsoft do something the box never could. It can keep raising what each customer pays without ever shipping a new product to a store. Look at what happened in January 2025. Microsoft raised the price of consumer Microsoft 365 for the first time in 12 years. Personal went from about $70 a year to $100. Family went from about $100 to $130. And the reason it gave was a new feature folded into the plan. Artificial intelligence. Microsoft bundled its Copilot assistant into those consumer subscriptions, then raised the recurring bill to match. No new box. No trip to a store. Just a higher number on a payment people had already agreed to make. On the business side, the same move is even bigger. Microsoft sells Microsoft 365 Copilot as a paid add-on, around $30 per user per month on top of the seat a company is already paying for. Sit with that. A business already renting 430 million seats can now be asked to add $30 a month to each one. By early 2026, Microsoft said it had reached about 15 million paid Copilot seats. That is 15 million people whose monthly bill went up, layered on top of a subscription they were already paying, delivered instantly over the internet, with no physical product changing hands. The recurring relationship is the launchpad. Every new feature is another reason the number on the bill can climb. This is the quiet genius of the shift. In the old world, Microsoft had to win you back every few years and convince you to buy the next version. In the new world, the default is that you keep paying, and Microsoft only has to stop you from leaving. Inertia does the selling. A company with 40,000 employees on Microsoft 365 does not reshop its Office software every month, it renews. And each renewal is revenue that shows up whether or not Microsoft shipped anything new that month, because you are no longer buying a product. You are paying for access, and access never expires as long as the payment keeps flowing. The same Word, the same Excel, the same Outlook your parents used. The difference is the customer never stops paying. So here is what Microsoft 365 really is. Not a product you purchase, a subscription you maintain. The exact same apps that used to come in a box now come on a meter, and the meter is the whole point. The genius was not building better software. Word and Excel were already dominant decades ago. The genius was changing what you are actually paying for. From a thing you own to a service you rent. On software so deeply woven into daily work that stopping the payment is harder than continuing it. And once you see this move, you see it spreading across the entire economy. The car with features unlocked over the air for a monthly fee. The video game you bought that now wants a season pass. The thermostat, the camera, the printer, all quietly turning a one-time purchase into a forever bill. The product is often the same. What changed is that you stopped buying it and started renting it, and the renting never ends. Next time, a company that took the opposite bet and gave its core product away for free to almost 1 billion people. That's LinkedIn, and the money is not where you are looking.